On June 30th, 2025, inside Dreamstar apartment, room 502, Chen returned home. Just before stepping inside, he noticed a box at his doorstep. At first, he thought it was something he had misplaced during his move. As he examined the box, he was surprised to realize that his boss had helped him retrieve it. Though exhausted, Chen carried it inside, already aware that it contained nothing of great value, just old photos and certificates. Yet for him, they were priceless memories. Setting the box on the table, he carefully opened it. Inside, he found an honorary certificate, a trophy, and a photograph of himself alongside a man named Park, his first mentor in the game Star Sea Shuttle from H Country. A nostalgic smile spread across Chen's face. That moment marked the true beginning of his esports career, a memory he cherished deeply. 5 years ago at Z Country National Esports Center, during a major esports event, an interpreter conducted an interview with Park Han-wong. Grateful for the opportunity to compete in Z Country, Park had even taken the time to learn some Chinese. However, his performance in the tournament left the audience unimpressed. Despite being one of the top players in H Country's esports scene, Park struggled to meet expectations. Misunderstanding the crowd's frustration, he attempted to address it, but his words didn't resonate with the audience. Suddenly, an enraged spectator shouted at Park, ridiculing him for boasting about his achievements. He claimed that if the legendary Dragon King hadn't been hospitalized, Park wouldn't have stood a chance, referencing Dragon King's previous 3-0 victory over him. Tension escalated as Park grabbed the microphone from the translator. With a defiant tone, he mocked the audience, calling them sore losers who couldn't accept reality. He even threatened to personally teach the heckler a lesson, dismissing him as nothing more than trash. After handing the microphone back, Park demanded the translator relay his exact words. However, anxious about the hostility in the room, the translator softened the statement, saying that Park acknowledged a difference between imagination and practice. He added that if the audience doubted his abilities, Park would gladly accept a challenge. Yet, despite the provocation, no one dared to step forward. They understood that the skill gap between them and Park was immense. Amidst the silence, Du San, a well-known esports figure, saw through the translator's deception. Unimpressed by the diplomatic response, he turned to Chen and urged him to challenge Park. Chen, however, declined. He had no interest in mech games. Undeterred, Du San tried to persuade him, promising to treat him to hot pot if he won. Seeing an opportunity for a free meal, Chen reconsidered and negotiated for 2 servings. With the deal set, Chen stood up. The audience erupted into cheers as the gamecaster announced that someone had finally stepped forward to challenge Park. As Chen approached the stage, the caster introduced him as a student from S University. Many spectators murmured in confusion. His name was unfamiliar in the esports scene. Meanwhile, Park frowned, clearly annoyed. To him, Chen was an unworthy challenger who didn't know his place. Unfazed, Chen yawned, feeling drowsy. He muttered to himself that he should finish the match quickly, eat, and then get some rest. With that, he put on his headset. Once both players were seated, they began setting up their game profiles. The caster noted that Park had ignored the A-tier mechs provided by the organizers and instead chosen an S-tier mech, granting him an unfair advantage. Meanwhile, Chen could only select an A-tier mech from the standard pool. The revelation disappointed the audience. Many saw it as blatant cheating. As the match started, Park launched an aggressive attack, triggering a massive flame pillar. However, Chen reacted swiftly, dodging the lethal move with ease. The unexpected counter caught Park off guard. Panic set in as he realized his opponent wasn't as inexperienced as he had assumed. The crowd, on the other hand, erupted in excitement, impressed by Chen's quick reflexes. Moments later, Chen executed a precise strike, destroying the core of Park's S-tier mech with a single fire knife. Park's frustration boiled over. Unable to contain his rage, he stomped his foot in frustration, while Chen remained relaxed in his seat. The caster announced Park's elimination, but instead of conceding, Park immediately re-entered the battlefield with another S-tier mech. In just 9 seconds, Chen took him down again. Determined not to accept defeat, Park challenged Chen a 3rd time, only to meet the same fate. His mech exploded in mere moments. Still unwilling to surrender, Park continued, challenging Chen for a 4th and then a 5th match. After the 5th game, Chen finally stood up. Looking at Park, he simply stated that the challenge had gone on long enough and that it was time for San to treat him to hot pot. With the match concluded, the crowd roared in admiration for Chen. The translator turned to him, acknowledging his impressive skills and questioning whether he was a veteran player. Park, still in disbelief, demanded to know why he had never heard of Chen in the mech gaming community before. To everyone's shock, Chen casually revealed that it was his first time playing a mech game. He had only recently turned 18 and had gained access to an internet cafe just 2 months prior. He had merely observed the gameplay the previous day and grasped the mechanics. The audience was stunned. A newcomer had dismantled one of the strongest players in the scene with minimal experience. Many began to speculate that Chen might become the future world champion. Meanwhile, Sen captured the moment, snapping a photo of Chen and Park on stage. Back in the present, Chen reminisced about that day. It was the turning point in his career. Later, he learned from San that Park had retired shortly after returning to his home country, unable to recover from the humiliation of his defeat. Now an established esports star, Chen had shifted his focus to Spirit Pain, a popular competitive game. Keeping his real name as his in-game alias, he set out to dominate the Z country esports scene. His eyes fell on the trophy inside the box. Carefully, he picked it up, the war's unparalleled trophy, a symbol of his journey from an unknown challenger to an esports legend. As he gazed at the trophy, memories flooded back. It was his first victory in Spirit Pain, the moment he first faced Candle Shadow Chaos. Back in the inaugural Unparalleled Cup's final battle, the game caster marveled at the strength of a Hall of Fame player, declaring it an incredible match. The intensity between Candle Shadow Chaos and Chen had reached an impasse, making the outcome unpredictable. The caster described it as a true warrior's duel, no elaborate techniques, just the raw clash of blades, blood, and will. Unlike other competitions, warrior battles ignited a primal thrill. Then Candle Shadow Chaos unleashed his Crimson King's new flame, drawing an enthusiastic response from the caster. As he attacked, Chen countered effortlessly with a single move, Reverse Flow Galaxy, sidestepping the strike with precision. Locking eyes with his opponent, Chen coolly declared that it was now his turn. Without hesitation, he summoned Taishan Sword Dance, and the caster's excitement soared. Chen had activated his most challenging infinite combo. He launched into a relentless assault, his blade weaving a mesmerizing dance. The combo counter skyrocketed past 60, then 70, showing no signs of stopping. Amid the clash, Chen taunted his opponent, asking how far he thought he could push past his record. Candle Shadow Chaos was momentarily stunned. The caster, in sheer amazement, proclaimed, "One sword dances the world, and Taishan collapses the heavens." The counter reached 197, surpassing Candle Shadow Chaos's previous record of 196. Yet the streak continued. With his defense shattered, Candle Shadow Chaos had no power left to resist the storm of strikes. Chen's combo surged past 250 before he finally claimed victory. Wiping his sword clean, he exited the battlefield. The game casters then announced their champion, Chen. With an unprecedented 250 combo finish, he had not only secured the win, but cemented his dynasty in Spirit Pain's warrior history. His guild, Ancient Sword Dream Soul, had just produced the tournament's first legendary warrior. Back in reality, Chen realized that was the only official battle he had ever fought against Candle Shadow Chaos. He was surprised to see that the organizers had engraved his Taishan Sword Dance combo count on the trophy itself. A bittersweet feeling washed over him. That trophy had remained his last, his 250th, one that his friends had often teased him about. His gaze shifted to the Hall of Fame Certificate of Honor, bearing records of his achievements and his rank as the youngest inductee in history. At that time, his name dominated gaming headlines daily. But beneath that certificate lay something else, a medical record. Life was unpredictable. A wave of melancholy struck as he reflected on his past self, so full of passion and drive. Now, it was difficult to even face his own memories. If not for that accident, back when Chen was hospitalized, the doctor had explained the severity of his condition. Despite making a miraculous recovery within 6 months, his brain nerves had suffered permanent damage. Under intense concentration, he now experienced a 3-second delay, something that didn't affect daily life but posed a critical issue in high-level gaming. That single revelation had altered his entire journey. His rank plummeted, and rumors spread like wildfire. Some mocked that he had dropped past the 100th rank, with others sneering that he was barely holding on to 98th. Among a group of players, one scoffed, finding it ridiculous that someone ranked so low could still carry a Hall of Fame title. He joked about whether the officials would revoke Lu Chen's certificate. Unbeknownst to them, Lu Chen stood nearby, listening. A woman in the group noticed his presence and froze, but the others remained indifferent, believing their current ranks put them above him. With a piercing glare, Lu Chen told them to leave. Once, he had been a revered master. Now, because of a single accident, he had become a laughingstock, someone the others mocked freely. The three players paled, their bravado crumbling as they quickly backed away. Lu Chen knew there was no point in lashing out at mockers. Without another word, he walked away unaffected. Yet, one of them turned back to steal another glance at him, his face still marked with unease. Upon reaching the ancient Sword Dream Soul Guild, Lu Chen was stunned. The once mighty guild now resembled a wrecked marketplace. Perplexed, he muttered to himself, wondering if the guild had been raided. Just then, a woman descended from the upper floors. Spotting him, she called out, acknowledging his arrival. Lu Chen immediately asked what had happened to the guild. The woman, Water One Side, was the guild leader. With a sigh, she explained that some members, fearing pursuit and retaliation, had staged a chaotic exit. They took everything of value, plundering even more ruthlessly than their rival guilds. Upon hearing this, Lu Chen grew concerned and asked if she was all right. Water One Side reassured him that there was nothing to worry about and that she was perfectly fine. Seizing the moment, Lu Chen informed her about his decision to withdraw. With a heavy sigh, Lu Chen expressed that perhaps his departure would prompt their enemies to leave the ancient Sword Dream Soul alone. However, Water One Side placed a hand on his shoulder, questioning what he was saying, leaving Lu Chen momentarily stunned. She reminded him that he was one of the guild's founders, a key figure among the 4 stars of sun, moon, and dust. Without him, they would be incomplete. She understood that their enemies were targeting both him and the ancient Sword Dream Soul. Their guild had once stood at the pinnacle, and the quickest way for others to seize the throne was to defeat its reigning king. Many sought to trample over their legacy to claim the top spot. Then, Water One Side mentioned that someone had issued a challenge to their guild the previous day. When Lu Chen asked if it was Candle Shadow Chaos, she confirmed it. Lu Chen's demeanor turned cold as he instructed her to reject the challenge, admitting that he wasn't in a position to defeat Candle Shadow Chaos at the moment. Water One Side agreed and proceeded to decline the request. However, as she clicked the rejection button, an error message appeared, stating that the challenge had already been withdrawn by the Candle Dragon Guild, accompanied by a public apology. Sensing something unusual, Lu Chen asked what had happened. Water One Side explained that the guild's senior management had retracted the challenge and issued an apology. Confused, Lu Chen inquired who the apology was directed to. She revealed that it was addressed to them, explaining that the Candle Dragon Guild no longer considered him worthy of challenging Candle Shadow Chaos. Realization dawned on Lu Chen. Accepting the challenge would have only diminished Candle Shadow Chaos's value. Water One Side elaborated that the guild believed Candle Shadow Chaos's impulsive actions had negatively affected the ancient Sword Dream Soul, prompting them to issue a public apology. The statement had been shared over 1 million times within the game, making it widely known. Seeing Lu Chen's reaction, Water One Side grew concerned and quickly asked if he was all right. However, Lu Chen merely froze, his expression unreadable. Then, forcing an awkward smile, he brushed it off, saying he understood and would continue clearing dungeons if nothing else was needed. Without another word, he left the guild, though Water One Side knew he was deeply affected. Later, while taking a shower, Lu Chen reflected on the aftermath of the apology letter. It marked the beginning of a coordinated assault led by the Candle Dragon Guild, leading to the complete downfall of the ancient Sword Dream Soul. His esports career had come to an end. In the final moments before the guild's closure, Lu Chen and the guild leader burned the 7 Dragon Grasslands as a symbolic act of defiance. Afterward, they deleted their accounts and quit the game, a final testament to their dissatisfaction. Breaking from his thoughts, Lu Chen glanced at the clock. It was already 11 at night. Deciding to use his computer before heading to bed, he powered it on, only to grumble at how slow the boot time had become. He noted how sluggish his system was, a minor yet annoying detail. Soon, he found himself browsing the game forums again. Clicking on the main link, he scrolled through the latest discussions. His gaze darkened as he read the top article. Though he had anticipated the content, the words still weighed heavily on him. The article reported that one of the Hall of Fame members, Chen, had burned the 7 Dragon Grasslands, and that all 5 remaining members of the Ancient Sword Dream Soul had quit the game. Despite their departure, the comment section was flooded with over 100,000 messages, many of them cursing his name. Leaning back in his gaming chair, Chen couldn't help but blame the relentless players who had driven him to such extremes. If they hadn't pursued him so mercilessly, he might never have taken such drastic action. The exhaustion of it all settled over him once more. Just as he was about to close the forum, he caught sight of a familiar object beneath his desk, a box. His chest tightened as recognition set in. It was the Heaven's Order gaming helmet, a Hall of Fame special edition sent by Yueheng Group. He realized that, after being hunted for so long, he had nearly forgotten his status as a Hall of Fame member. Curiosity sparked within him as he searched for the game's latest updates. A moment later, a notification popped up on his screen. Heaven's Order had officially launched. The announcement declared that Spirit Pain had shut down, and in its place, Heaven's Order was set to redefine gaming with enhanced mechanics, new professions, and innovative gameplay. Chen was taken aback. The visual effects and graphics were on a completely different level, far surpassing those of Spirit Pain. However, what truly caught his attention was the game's slogan. Gaming professions. How could you be thrilled if you aren't here for a fierce battle? Chen read the words carefully. A question formed in his mind. How could he be thrilled if he wasn't there? Before he could dwell on it further, his phone rang. Startled, he glanced at the screen. It was Du San. Quickly, he answered the call. Du San wasted no time, demanding to know where he had been and why his phone had been off. Chen, still dazed, admitted that he had forgotten and wasn't sure himself. Du San, confused, asked if he had been drinking. Then, in a more serious tone, he reminded Chen that Spirit Pain had officially shut down and urged him not to dwell on the past. Whatever they had lost, they could reclaim in Heaven's Order. But Chen's response was cold and detached. He stated that he had already given up and suggested that Du San should move forward without him. Du San, angered, demanded to know if this was a joke. Was this truly the same Chen he had known? Chen calmly explained that he was content with his current life and didn't want to face humiliation again. Frustrated, Du San refused to accept his decision. He reminded Chen that he was the player who had once defeated Park Han Wong and Candle Shadow Chaos, the youngest Hall of Fame inductee. Then, with a heated voice, he asked, "Are you really going to give up just like that?" Upon hearing those words, Chen grew irritated and demanded to know what Du San was trying to say. Du San, his voice rising, declared that he understood the need to fight back when being bullied. He reminded Chen of how their guild had dwindled to just 5 members, how they had been relentlessly hunted down until they were forced to quit the game. Once again, he pressed Chen. Was he really willing to give up? For a brief moment, Chen stood frozen. Seizing the moment, Du San continued, reminding him that he was once known as the Spirit's Pain Warrior. The challenge had been revoked, and he had received a public apology that went viral. But wasn't that just another form of humiliation? Could he truly accept it without resistance? Chen had had enough. He shouted back, asking how he could possibly be okay with everything that had happened. Every time he logged in, he was hunted down. His comrades had been harassed until they left the game. He was no longer the legendary Hall of Fame player he once was. Hearing this, Du San's hands trembled with anger. He cursed at Chen, calling him a disgrace. Again and again, he called Chen a coward before finally cutting off the conversation, leaving Chen devastated. After the call ended, Chen removed his headset. The word coward echoed in his mind repeatedly. As he reflected on his past battles, particularly his thrilling duel with Candle Shadow Chaos, memories surged through him. The euphoria of victory, the sting of public disgrace, the merciless pursuit by his enemies, and the destruction of his guild. He had once stood at the pinnacle of the game. And now, he understood, Du San was right. Determined, Chen placed the gaming helmet back on his head and logged into Heaven's Order. Suddenly, the game's system interface loaded at an astonishing speed. Chen was taken aback. It felt as though he was traveling through an ocean of data. As the initialization sequence neared completion, a thought crossed his mind. Was the Yueheng Group's virtual technology truly this advanced? Moments later, he was transported to the Temple of Guidance. Looking around, Lu Chen was amazed by the level of realism. It felt as if he had stepped into an actual palace. The texture of the stone pillars, every minute detail, everything was meticulously rendered. Compared to Spirit's Pain, this was a true masterpiece. Suddenly, a voice called out, welcoming him to the Temple of Guidance. His gaze snapped toward the source. It was a fairy. She introduced herself as Sprite Yu, the system guide. Lu Chen greeted her in return. Sprite Yu then informed him that, based on verification, he was recognized as a CGL Hall of Fame member in the Z country region. Because of this, he had access to an exclusive ID privilege. She then asked if he wished to continue using his in-game name, Lu Chen. For a moment, Lu Chen remained silent. His name had become a laughingstock in the Hall of Fame. He glanced at the username input field. If he changed his name, it would mark a fresh start, a declaration that he was no longer the same player he once was. He was no longer Lu Chen, the Hall of Fame player. He was now someone new, someone determined to reclaim his glory. With that thought, he entered his new ID, Broken Spear Sinking Sand. Quickly, he confirmed his selection. Sprite Yu read the name aloud for confirmation. Lu Chen smirked and nodded. Then, without warning, he let out a strange laugh. "The iron hasn't melted yet," he murmured. "It will be ground and washed to recognize the former dynasty." These 4 words carried deep meaning, poetic, symbolic. He was a remnant of a forgotten era, the lingering soul of an ancient swordsman. He was back. Sprite Yu, startled by his words, hesitated for a moment before proceeding. She then asked if he was ready to choose his race and profession. Lu Chen instructed her to begin. Immediately, the system displayed the debut of 10 different professions, each appearing before him in vivid detail. As he scanned through the choices, he weighed his options. The mobile knight and balanced warrior caught his eye, offering mobility and versatility. Then, his gaze lingered on the burst archer, a single-target damage powerhouse. However, indecision gnawed at him. In the end, he found himself drawn back to his old path, the warrior. Before he could finalize his decision, a system window popped up. Notice, the helmet's initial operation requires a blood sample for player body detection. Without delay, a small syringe extended from the helmet, extracting a sample from Lu Chen. Another notification appeared. Blood sampling in progress. Lu Chen frowned. A blood test? Did this helmet always have such a feature? A sudden unease settled in, his body tensing instinctively. Shortly after, the system issued another notification. Blood sampling complete. Beginning body detection. However, this time, an urgent red alert appeared. Warning, abnormal physical data detected. Lu Chen's heart pounded as the system displayed shocking statistics. Heart rate, 30% lower than the average human standard. Body temperature, 70% below normal. Blood activity concentration, 40% lower than standard. Brainwave response, 120% higher than normal. Vital signs, 50% lower than a healthy human baseline. Panic gripped him. Why were all his readings in the red? Was his VIP-level helmet defective? Suddenly, his room emitted a bright red light. Afterward, Sprite Yu informed Lu Chen that, due to his unique physique, the system could unlock a hidden profession for him. Curious, Lu Chen inquired about the profession, prompting Sprite Yu to ask if he wished to proceed. Without hesitation, Lu Chen agreed. Moments later, the system interface appeared, revealing his new class, Death Knight. Known as the strongest warrior of the underworld, a descendant of the Azura clan and the master of Death's power, this profession ruled over all night spirits. Lu Chen was taken aback. He recognized the Death Knight as a formidable warrior class belonging to a special race, one that perfectly suited him. Just as he was processing this revelation, the system notified him that time was up and the game was about to begin. It then asked if he wanted to enter immediately, to which he confirmed. Soon after, at Chaos Corp's Ridge Novice Village, a voice echoed through the darkness, commanding him to awaken and calling him the abandoned dead. In response, a skeletal hand emerged from the earth. It turned out that Lu Chen had been transformed into a skeleton, freshly risen from the grave. Frustrated, he cursed his unfortunate starting point in the dirt. As he stood up, the system notified him that he was in the apprentice form of a Death Knight, the skeleton of death. This revelation left him in disbelief. He had expected a fearsome knightly figure, not a frail skeleton. Still, understanding that this was a special profession, he had no choice but to accept his fate. It was then that he realized, without flesh or blood, he was now just bones. A quick glance downward confirmed his worst fear. He was now a man of iron bones and hot blood. Suddenly, another system notification appeared, announcing the arrival of Naiwen, the undead chief mage of Chaos Corp's Ridge Novice Village. A figure materialized before him, referring to him as Little Skeleton. Taken aback, Chen instinctively asked for his identity. The man introduced himself as the village's chief, an undead mage. He handed Chen a sword, instructing him to embark on his journey, fight for the night spirits, and prove his strength with blood and courage. Caught off guard, Chen was left speechless but soon received another system notification. He had obtained a novice equipment set from the village chief. Curious, Chen opened his inventory, revealing its meager contents: a broken iron sword and a tattered cloth shirt. Though unimpressive, he figured they were better than nothing. With some hesitation, he equipped the items. As the worn-out gear settled on his skeletal form, he declared, "The Death Knight has arrived." Convinced that his stats had skyrocketed, he hurriedly opened his attribute panel. To his dismay, his stats were pitiful. A level 0. HP 100. Attack 1 to 2. Defense 1. Magic defense 0. Reputation 0. A luck 0. As he processed the disappointment, Naiwen suddenly appeared behind him, startling him. The undead mage offered to provide some guidance and rewards, hinting that he had special tricks to share. However, Chen firmly declined, insisting he would not sell himself for power. Despite the rejection, Naiwen simply chuckled and teased him, remarking that he didn't have any meat to sell anyway. The system then issued a quest: kill 20 big-eared rabbits, collect 5 coarse leg hairs from them, and deliver them to Naiwen for a reward. Without much thought, Chen accepted the F-level lower-class quest, assuming it would be an easy task. Soon, he was teleported to Carrot Grassland, where hordes of big-eared rabbits roamed. Wasting no time, Chen dashed forward, eager to take down his first target. At first, he confidently swung his sword, believing the battle would be effortless. However, just as he exhaled in relief, another rabbit lunged at him. Undeterred, Chen tightened his grip, ready for battle. He analyzed the movement pattern of the rabbits and predicted where they would appear in 3 seconds before executing his attack. But to his shock, his strikes missed completely. The rabbits were much faster than he had anticipated. Before he could react, a rabbit kicked him square in the face, dislocating his jaw and reducing his HP to 15. Stunned, he couldn't comprehend why his attack had failed, even though he had accounted for the delay. Refusing to back down, he continued his duel. But no matter how many times he swung, his attacks kept missing, while the rabbit relentlessly landed blows on him. At one point, a rabbit even perched on the tip of his sword, mocking him. Chen was in disbelief. Determined, he tried again, but his attacks were useless, and the rabbits freely battered him. His HP plummeted, and soon he was on the verge of collapse. As he realized his delay had dropped, he shouted out names from his past, declaring that the #1 swordsman in the world was returning. Moments later, he respawned at the revival point. Lying there, he struggled to accept the humiliating truth. He had been defeated by rabbits. Determined to keep his embarrassment a secret, he vowed that Du-Shur-San and the others could never find out. Still puzzled by his 0.9-second delay, Chen rubbed his forehead, feeling a sudden dizziness. It was as if something was missing, a crucial memory just out of reach. As he concentrated, flashes of fragmented memories surfaced. A sports car crash, a bloodied baseball bat, his birthplace in the game, and a man named Guan Yu. Confused, he questioned how these things were connected to him. Then, he recalled what the doctor had once told him. His nerves had a chance of self-repairing. A thought struck him. Could this be the self-repair the doctor had mentioned? Chen set aside his distractions, focusing on completing his task as he made his way to the rabbit's location. Upon arrival, the system alerted him that the weak point of the big-eared rabbit was its neck, granting him a 50% damage bonus. Wasting no time, he caught the rabbits off guard, provoking them into a furious frenzy. Without hesitation, Chen swiftly cut them down, earning 5 experience points for each kill. The reduced attack delay felt incredibly smooth to him, now standing at just 0.9 seconds, which left him thoroughly satisfied. As he reveled in his growing strength, Lu Chen confidently challenged the next opponent to step forward. However, he suddenly sensed something approaching from a distance, prompting him to turn around. In an instant, a player's body was hurled toward him. Reacting quickly, Lu Chen managed to block it, his eyes narrowing as he examined the fallen figure. The player's battered state made him wonder what kind of enemy had inflicted such severe damage. While holding the motionless body, Lu Chen called out to the unseen threat, daring it to come forward. From afar, a towering, muscular monster gripped another player in its grasp. Its gaze locked onto Lu Chen, signaling that he had become its next target. The creature turned out to be a level 10 king of the big-eared rabbits, boasting an HP of 300. The system notified Lu Chen that this formidable beast was the ruler of the Carrot Grassland, a short-tempered, muscle-bound monster. Without warning, the king rabbit grabbed a nearby player and hurled them toward Lu Chen, while the unfortunate victim cried out for help. However, Lu Chen swiftly used another companion as a shield, causing both players to collide midair. Afterward, he teleported them back to their base, casually bidding them farewell with a jest about avenging their defeat. With his allies gone, Lu Chen turned his focus toward the king rabbit, which was slowly closing the distance. He realized this was his first time facing a boss with reduced delay, and the anticipation only heightened his excitement. Gripping his sword, Lu Chen noticed something peculiar in the king rabbit's hands. Upon closer inspection, he was astonished to see a brass knuckle, an unusual weapon for a rabbit. This indicated that the king rabbit was likely a close combat specialist. Knowing this, Lu Chen reminded himself to remain calm. A fast-attacking opponent like this required patience. The best strategy was to wait for an opening. The king rabbit lunged forward with a swift punch. Lu Chen dodged just in time, but was shocked to feel a sudden impact. The beast had generated a powerful gust from its punch, dealing 25 HP damage despite not making direct contact. The system promptly informed him that, thanks to the undead's regenerative nature, his skeletal frame would gradually repair itself, though blood-related injuries wouldn't heal as easily. Seizing the moment, Lu Chen counterattacked, striking the king rabbit in the chest. A critical hit registered, but to his dismay, it only inflicted 8 damage. He hadn't expected the creature's defense to be so tough. Nevertheless, he pressed forward, swinging his sword repeatedly. Repositioning himself, Lu Chen taunted the king rabbit to chase him. The beast obliged, charging at full speed before leaping toward him. Just as planned, Lu Chen evaded the attack and slashed at its neck midair. Yet his sword barely made an impact. To his shock, the king rabbit had hidden armor beneath its fur. The failed attack led the king rabbit to smash into a nearby tree, splitting it apart with sheer force. Watching from a safe distance, Lu Chen exhaled in relief. If that punch had landed, he might have been reduced to dust. However, his relief was short-lived. The king rabbit, seemingly enraged, suddenly ripped an entire tree from the ground. Stunned, Lu Chen sarcastically remarked on the beast's absurd strength, calling it a kind rabbit for helping with deforestation. At full speed, the king rabbit hurled the massive tree toward Lu Chen. Prepared for the assault, Lu Chen swiftly executed a combo attack, slicing the tree into pieces. He smirked, declaring that even if he couldn't cut through the rabbit, he could at least chop down a tree. But just as he thought he had control, the king rabbit emerged from behind the falling debris, launching a surprise punch at him. Caught off guard, Lu Chen barely managed to react. At the last moment, he countered, stabbing the king rabbit in the face. The attack landed, but it only inflicted normal damage. The king rabbit's HP dropped to 272. Undeterred, the beast retaliated with another punch, targeting Lu Chen's face. Realizing that its eyes might be its weak point, Lu Chen hesitated for a brief moment. That moment of distraction cost him. He took a direct hit, reducing his HP to 15. The force dislocated his jaw, sending him airborne. However, he managed to follow the momentum of the punch, minimizing the damage. Before he could recover, the king rabbit delivered a devastating blow to his ribs, further reducing his HP to 40 and shattering several bones. Enraged, the beast grabbed Lu Chen and tossed him into the air, slamming him against a tree. Now critically injured, Lu Chen found himself hanging from the branches, his status showing that his HP was at 5%, hunger at 85%, and MP at 87%. Seeing his weakened state, the king rabbit charged toward him for the finishing blow. But just as it was about to strike, something unexpected happened. Its hands became entangled in dead vines wrapped around the tree. The king rabbit struggled to free itself while Lu Chen, perched above, looked down with amusement. Mockingly, Lu Chen asked if the king rabbit liked the gift he had prepared. He explained that the tree was covered in tangled vines that were nearly impossible to escape from. The king rabbit thrashed about, trying to break free, but Lu Chen informed him that unless he destroyed the entire tree, his struggle would be futile. Without wasting any time, Lu Chen drew his sword and aimed at the trapped beast. The king rabbit panicked as Lu Chen taunted that its chances had run out. Then, with a swift motion, Lu Chen plunged his sword into the rabbit's eye, inflicting massive damage. The system confirmed a critical hit, reducing the king rabbit's HP to 172. Now blinded in one eye, the king rabbit went into a berserk state. Its attack power increased by 50%, but its speed and defense dropped by the same margin. Seeing this, Lu Chen smirked and mocked the creature. What good was increased attack power if it couldn't even land a hit? Capitalizing on the opportunity, Lu Chen launched a relentless assault. With each strike, the king rabbit's HP dwindled further and further. By the time it reached 38, Lu Chen bid his foe farewell before delivering the final blow. In one clean motion, he beheaded the king rabbit, finally bringing an end to the battle. Shortly after, the system congratulated him for defeating the king of rabbits. His level increased to 4, and he received his well-earned rewards. As the loot materialized, he eagerly examined his prizes. A glowing king rabbit chest plate with a black stone quality, offering +9 physical defense and +20 HP. Requiring at least level 2 to equip additionally, he obtained a magic gemstone, boasting 77% quality and rich in magical energy, valuable enough to be traded for gold coins. A wide grin spread across Lu Chen's face. This was a battle well worth the effort. Without hesitation, Lu Chen swiftly donned the glowing chest plate, feeling relieved to finally have some decent equipment. A system notification appeared, granting him a bonus of 10 free attribute points. He could allocate these points among his 4 primary attributes: life, mana, strength, and agility. Reviewing his stats, Lu Chen carefully considered where to invest the points. Since he had already acquired a chest plate for defense and lacked any skills requiring mana, he ruled out life and mana. Agility, on the other hand, could be compensated by reaction speed. Ultimately, he decided to allocate all his points to strength. As his status updated, his strength visibly increased. His attack power jumped from 11 to 16 points, confirming that the undead swordsman class had impressive strength growth. Each 5 points of strength translated to an additional 3 to 5 points of attack power. Without wasting time, Lu Chen hurried toward the corpse of the king rabbit, realizing he had yet to collect a single strand of its leg hair. Once he secured the item, he approached the village chief and confidently inquired about his quest progress. Mage Niwen, standing nearby, praised his efforts and handed him the reward. A system notification popped up, confirming the completion of his quest to slay the king rabbit. Lu Chen gained 150 experience points, 10 copper coins, and a 1-point increase in reputation. Additionally, he leveled up to 5, earning another 5 free attribute points. Delighted with his rewards, he immediately asked if there were any more tasks available. Mage Niwen nodded and presented him with a new quest. The system notified him of the details. He needed to hunt green mantises, task level F, medium difficulty. His objective was to venture into the morning light forest, eliminate 100 green mantises, and collect 10 mantis blades to deliver to the village chief. Before setting off, Lu Chen asked where he could find a merchant to buy red potions for the upcoming battle. To his surprise, the village chief introduced himself as a merchant. Lu Chen hadn't expected the village leader to run a business on the side. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Lu Chen handed over a magic stone, curious about its value. The village chief inspected it and, impressed by its quality, offered 1,540 copper coins. Seeing the hefty amount, Lu Chen's eyes practically sparkled. Compared to the mere 10 copper coins from quest rewards, selling magic stones in bulk could be quite lucrative. Without hesitation, he accepted the deal and asked if the chief had any red potions available. The village chief eagerly confirmed and assured Lu Chen he wouldn't be disappointed. A system prompt then appeared, detailing the basic red potion's effects. It restored 80 health points and cost 50 copper coins each. Lu Chen purchased 20 bottles, but after realizing the hefty price, He couldn't help but grumble about the lack of a discount. The village chief, however, simply thanked him for his purchase. With supplies in hand, Chen finally arrived at the Morning Light Forest. A large signboard stood at the entrance, bearing a warning from the Mad Dragon Guild. Trespassers will not be tolerated. Reading the sign, Chen found the wording amusing. He wasn't even human. How could he be considered an idle trespasser? Just then, two players came sprinting toward him, clearly fleeing from something. Their panicked expressions piqued his curiosity. On the other side, the same two players continued running for their lives, fully aware that someone, or something, was on their trail. Chen watched in confusion before realizing that the two were actually brothers. He couldn't help but wonder, what had they gotten themselves into? From a distance, the older brother notices Chen approaching. Alarmed, he warns his younger brother that they are caught between a spirit knight in front and a mad dragon behind, almost as if the heavens themselves seek to destroy them. Fear grips the younger brother as he anxiously asks what they should do. With no other choice, the older brother decides they must fight Chen. His younger brother readily agrees, confident that, at just level 5, Chen would be easy to handle. Suddenly, an arrow strikes the older brother, causing him to jolt in surprise. The younger brother freezes, his gaze locked onto his injured sibling. Just as he moves to assist, another arrow hurtles toward him. Paralyzed by panic, he is unable to react. Before the arrow reaches its target, Chen swiftly intercepts it, shocking the younger brother. Realizing that Chen had just saved them, the younger brother quickly expresses his gratitude and turns to check on his older brother. Though injured, the older brother reassures him that he will survive. However, Chen warns them that they need to leave immediately as more arrows rain down upon them. Wasting no time, Chen dashes toward the source of the arrows. He acknowledges that while arrows are fast, their trajectory is predictable. With his current reaction speed, dodging them is effortless. Meanwhile, a level 7 archer from the Mad Dragon Guild, Xiaohua Rong, and watches in disbelief as Chen evades every arrow. Feeling the pressure, Rong activates his ultimate skill, Clan Wind Burst, while taunting Chen, dismissing him as a mere level 5 skeleton pretending to be a hero. Undeterred, Chen counters the attack effortlessly, slicing the incoming arrow in half. He coldly remarks that Rong's ultimate move is useless. Stunned, Rong glares at Chen. He refuses to back down and prepares another attack. However, before he can react, Chen suddenly vanishes from his line of sight. By the time Rong realizes what's happening, Chen is already behind him, moving at an astonishing speed. Before Rong can even react, Chen swings his sword in a surprise attack, bidding him farewell. Rong is left frozen in shock as Chen's blade lands a devastating critical strike of 135 damage, instantly defeating him. As Rong collapses, Chen muses that archers are still as fragile as ever. A loud noise suddenly echoes across the battlefield, catching Chen's attention. He frowns, puzzled by the sheer magnitude of the commotion, far beyond what new players should be capable of generating in combat. A realization strikes him. The Mad Dragon Guild must have cleared the field to surround the boss. He sighs, acknowledging that he himself was the only fish that slipped through the net. Deep within the Morning Light Forest, the Mad Dragon Guild is engaged in an intense battle. Their leader watches as they fight a formidable foe, a level 15 King Green Mantis, its piercing shrieks filling the air as its HP dwindles to 600. A man, a level 9 knight known as Dragon Reigns Supreme, calls out to his allies, announcing that they have successfully drained half of the boss's health. He assures them that every fallen ally will be compensated 300 yuan, and those who lose levels due to death will receive an additional 500 yuan. With unwavering authority, Dragon Reigns Supreme reminds them of the reward structure. Each drop of the boss's blood is worth 50 yuan, and previous contributors will also be compensated. Chen watches in astonishment. A crazy tycoon, he thinks. By his calculation, 1,200 drops of blood would cost 60,000 yuan. Spending such a fortune just to kill an F-rank boss seemed absurd. Encouraged by the promise of rewards, the guild members charge at the King Mantis, rallying under their banner. For the young master. For the Mad Dragon Guild. Unfortunately, their reckless charge proves fatal. The King Mantis lashes out with terrifying speed, slicing through the attackers in an instant, reducing them to lifeless bodies. Witnessing the carnage, Chen compares the King Mantis to the King Rabbit he had previously fought, concluding that its destructive power is far more intense. He begins to wonder if the remaining members of the Mad Dragon Guild can withstand the onslaught until the very end. Meanwhile, Dragon Reign Supreme remains unfazed. He commands his allies to maintain their assault, emphasizing the importance of coordination and positioning. He instructs them to first attract the boss's aggro, exploit its attack patterns, and take advantage of its skill cooldown. He stresses a hit-and-retreat strategy, which his guild members quickly acknowledge. Hearing this, Chen narrows his eyes. A reckless tactic, he questions Dragon Reign Supreme's battlefield command, suspecting that this strategy is far too risky. To Chen, this method of mindless sacrifice is a surefire way to incur heavy losses. A grim thought crosses his mind. Is Dragon Reign Supreme deliberately using his guild members as disposable pawns to grind the boss down? While his allies were engaged in battle against the King Mantis, Chen carefully observed the situation. He calculated the financial loss. Each death cost 300 yuan, and losing a level added another 500 yuan. With 50 members of the Mad Dragon Guild present, the total loss from deaths and level reductions would amount to 40,000 yuan. Based on the accumulated blood volume rewards and death compensations, Chen estimated that Dragon Reign Supreme would ultimately spend 100,000 yuan to secure the first kill of an F-level boss. Meanwhile, some of their allies had managed to land attacks on the King Mantis, reducing its HP to 416. As the King Mantis lashed out at those who failed to retreat in time, Dragon Reign Supreme remained indifferent to their fate. He commanded the archers to continue firing, which they promptly did. The relentless assault inflicted significant damage, dropping the King Mantis's HP to 60. Seeing this, Dragon Reign Supreme was thrilled. He praised his team for their efforts and instructed them to stop attacking when the boss had only a sliver of health left, as he intended to deliver the finishing blow himself. Chen, however, was disgusted by Dragon Reign Supreme's tactics. It became clear why he had nearly reached level 10. He had monopolized 50% of the boss's final experience. Suddenly, the King Mantis underwent a transformation, sprouting multiple new arms. Panic spread among the archers as they realized it had activated a skill: Six-Armed Green Mantis King. This berserk state enhanced its attack power by 100%, defense by 50%, and speed by 100%. Chen, both intrigued and wary, acknowledged the danger. The King Mantis went on a rampage, cutting down several allies. The remaining fighters, driven by financial stakes, continued their assault, eventually reducing its HP to a mere 18. Dragon Reign Supreme, now ecstatic, urged his team to press forward and create an opening for him. As the battle intensified, both he and Chen noticed that the King Mantis's HP had dropped to 3%. It was time to act. Dragon Reign Supreme charged forward, spear in hand, aiming for the final strike. However, just as he was about to land the blow, Chen intercepted him with his sword, blocking the attack. The King Mantis leaped away, repositioning itself. Meanwhile, Dragon Reign Supreme, caught off guard, demanded to know who Chen was. Chen casually responded that he was just a passerby seeking justice for the players who had been unfairly driven away. Suspicious, Dragon Reign Supreme questioned why he had only appeared at the crucial moment. With a smirk, Chen joked that he was simply there to purify the game environment, though in truth, he intended to claim the boss as compensation. Enraged, Dragon Reign Supreme hurled his weapon at Chen, declaring that no one would take what belonged to him. The King Mantis, sensing an opportunity, also lunged at Chen, initiating a pincer attack. Reacting swiftly, Chen grabbed one of the King Mantis's arms and used it as a shield. He then repositioned himself and delivered a precise strike at Dragon Reign Supreme, landing a critical hit of 250 damage. As Dragon Reign Supreme staggered, Chen remarked that he should refine his skills and mockingly called him a young master. As his avatar began to fade, Dragon Reign Supreme cursed Chen for stealing his kill and questioned how many lives he had left. Chen merely responded that money wasn't everything. Turning his attention back to the King Mantis, Chen reassured the creature that it wouldn't be alone for long. He then delivered the final strike, successfully slaying the boss. A system notification appeared, congratulating him for achieving the first kill. Excited about his rewards, Chen's joy was short-lived when the system issued an urgent warning. His life index had dropped below the minimum limit, and he would be forcibly logged out. The system assured him that his acquired experience and equipment would be saved, leaving Lu Chen momentarily confused. Back in the real world, Lu Chen removed his gaming helmet and placed it on the table. Scratching his head, he pondered why he had been abruptly forced offline and what the system's warning truly meant. However, a strange sensation on his face distracted him. A sudden, loud knocking at his door broke his thoughts. Puzzled as to who would visit at such a late hour, he grabbed a bat for protection before cautiously opening the door. To his surprise, Du Shisan stood there, visibly concerned. He explained that he had been trying to contact Lu Chen, but after receiving no responses to his messages or calls, he decided to check on him in person. As Du Shisan was about to question him, his expression shifted to one of horror. He began trembling, staring at Lu Chen's face in shock. Stammering, he stepped back and blurted out, "You're a zombie." Upon hearing the repeated mention of zombie, Lu Chen was puzzled and asked why he was being called that. In response, Du Shisan pulled out his phone, handed it to Lu Chen, and suggested he see for himself. Driven by curiosity, Lu Chen leaned in to look at the screen. The moment he saw his reflection, he froze. His expression shifted to shock as he questioned what had happened to his face. Du Shisan calmly explained that the markings on his skin were corpse spots, distinctive signs found on cadavers, and that they were spreading and changing at a visible rate. Refusing to believe it, Lu Chen dismissed the explanation as nothing more than an allergic reaction. However, Du Shisan insisted that if he had doubts, they could go to his father's hospital for a proper examination. He added that the symptoms perfectly matched forensic records. Just as Lu Chen was about to take a step forward, he suddenly lost his balance. Confusion and fear overtook him as he questioned how such a condition could be affecting him. A sharp pain shot through his head, and he groaned in distress. Before he could collapse completely, Du Shisan caught him, reassuring him that they would get to the hospital immediately. A short while later, at the 4th People's Hospital emergency room, the medical director, Du Zhongjing, carefully examined Lu Chen. His expression turned grim as he confirmed the presence of corpse spots. As he continued checking Lu Chen's vitals, Du Shisan anxiously inquired about his condition. Director Du admitted that the situation was unclear and suggested they conduct a blood test and a PET-CT scan to gather more information. When the blood test results came back, Director Du was visibly shaken. Inside the hematology laboratory, Lu Chen anxiously asked about the findings. Director Du hesitated before revealing that the situation was far from ordinary. The disease was unlike anything they had encountered before. A massive, unidentified virus was present in Lu Chen's blood, something that defied biological logic. Lu Chen's eyes widened in shock. A dreadful thought crossed his mind, and he hesitantly asked if he had been infected with a zombie virus. Director Du reassured him that it wasn't as extreme as that. What made this virus unusual was that, instead of attacking his healthy cells, it appeared to be repairing his damaged ones. Director Du explained that due to the excessive number of damaged cells in Lu Chen's body, his blood circulation had significantly slowed down. This sluggish circulation was causing blood to accumulate near the skin, resulting in the appearance of corpse spots. He further warned that if the circulation continued to decline, it could eventually stop altogether, leading to Lu Chen's death. The gravity of the statement left both Lu Chen and Du Shisan stunned. Sensing their distress, Director Du placed a reassuring hand on Lu Chen's arm, encouraging him not to lose hope. With modern medical technology, there had to be a way to counteract the condition. He then informed them that the PET-CT scan was ready and that they needed to check if the virus was affecting other parts of Lu Chen's body. Lu Chen expressed his gratitude, but Director Du brushed it off, telling him there was no need to be so formal. However, he then shifted his tone and asked if Lu Chen had experienced anything unusual in the past few days. At that moment, a memory surfaced in Lu Chen's mind, an image of a red door sealed shut. His expression darkened for a brief second before he quickly denied having encountered anything out of the ordinary. They proceeded to the CT room, where Lu Chen lay on the examination bed as the scanner moved from his feet to his head. Meanwhile, outside the scanning area, Director Du and Du Shisan observed the procedure. Du Shisan turned to his father, curious if he suspected Lu Chen of withholding information. Director Du admitted that he simply wanted to confirm something. He theorized that Lu Chen's memory loss might be a psychological defense mechanism, a way for his brain to protect him from a traumatic experience. Hearing this, Du Shursen speculated that Lu Chen might be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, subconsciously blocking out distressing memories. Director Du nodded, acknowledging that his son had indeed been reading the medical books at home. He then pointed out that based on the rate of Lu Chen's circulatory decline, it was likely he had experienced a severe trauma, perhaps even a near-death experience. Given the severity of the situation, they needed to notify Lu Chen's family as soon as possible. As Du Shursen clenched his jaw in frustration and uncertainty, Lu Chen lay still, feeling the scanner pass over his body. Suddenly, Du Shursen rushed into the CT room, determined to document Lu Chen's condition. He told his father to ensure that Lu Chen received proper care, which Director Du assured him he would. Then, without warning, Du Shursen let out a loud scream, startling everyone. Director Du immediately stormed into the room, his face twisting in irritation. He reprimanded Du Shursen for causing a commotion in the hospital in the middle of the night. However, as he saw his son frozen in shock, he furrowed his brows. Following Du Shursen's trembling finger, Director Du's eyes landed on Lu Chen, and what he saw left him utterly bewildered. The corpse spots were gone. Lu Chen, realizing the change, frantically checked his own body. A mixture of disbelief and relief washed over his face as he confirmed that the ominous marks had truly disappeared. Equally astonished, Director Du stepped closer and demanded to know how Lu Chen was feeling. Lu Chen explained that while undergoing the CT scan, he had felt an unusual warmth coursing through his body. Now he felt perfectly fine. Director Du, still struggling to process the situation, touched Lu Chen's face, inspecting it closely. His skin appeared completely normal. Checking his hands, his pupils, everything seemed as it should be. The more he examined, the deeper his confusion grew. Taking a step back, Director Du muttered that Lu Chen's condition had seemingly vanished. In an almost manic urgency, he ordered Lu Chen to retrieve the blood analysis equipment, only to abruptly change his mind and decide they needed to head straight to the laboratory. Lu Chen, feeling overwhelmed by the doctor's sudden burst of energy, awkwardly suggested that he calm down. 3 hours later, after exhaustive lab tests, Lu Chen sat pale-faced and visibly drained, exhaustion settling over him. As they exited the laboratory, Lu Chen struggled to walk, his body trembling from the excessive tests he had undergone. Turning to Du Shursen, he weakly muttered that Director Du had intended to dissect him for human experimentation. Concerned, Du Shursen shook his head, admitting he hadn't expected the director to draw as much as 800 cubic centimeters of his blood for experiments. When they arrived at Lu Chen's home, Du Shursen handed him a glass of water and informed him that the tests confirmed X-rays had an inhibitory effect on the virus. He explained that once they identified the optimal X-ray wavelength for targeted irradiation, Lu Chen's recovery would be certain. Lu Chen nodded in agreement. Seeing his exhausted state, Du Shursen suggested he rest, as it was already 6 in the morning. He offered to buy breakfast, to which Lu Chen gratefully agreed, thanking him before lying down. After Du Shursen left, Lu Chen examined his hands, recalling Director Du's words about suffering a heavy blow. He tried to piece together his memories, wondering if he had any recollection of what had happened. Not long after, Du Shursen returned and called out to Lu Chen twice before sharing an unexpected sight. At the community gate, a woman in a sports car was arguing with the security guard. She had a bandage wrapped around her head and looked as if she were in a rush to confront a mistress. Amused, Du Shursen asked if Lu Chen wanted to come downstairs and watch the commotion. Lu Chen, puzzled, asked if he had a picture of the scene. Without hesitation, Du Shursen pulled out his phone and showed him. The image on the screen perfectly matched Du Shursen's description. As Lu Chen stared at it, a memory surfaced. He recalled a red door bound by chains. His mind raced as the fragments of his past began falling into place. He could see the door rattling, the chains trembling, and then shattering. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness overtook him. In a rush of realization, he remembered the night after his first date with the boss. The scattered chains, the broken door, and then the stark truth hit him. That night he had died. Afterward, Du Shursen, visibly concerned, asked Lu Chen what was wrong. In response, Lu Chen revealed that a woman named He Yi was the leader of the ancient sword Dream Soul. This led Du Shursen to ask if she was also his superior. Suddenly, a loud knock echoed through the room as He Yi demanded that the door be opened. Lu Chen was startled. He hadn't expected her to find him so quickly. Du Shursen, now full of questions, gave Lu Chen a scrutinizing look. He had a gut feeling that Lu Chen wasn't here for an innocent reason. "What exactly did you do last night?" he asked, making Lu Chen even more anxious and at a loss for words. Ignoring Lu Chen's unease, Du Shursen stood up and made his way toward the door. "Since you two know each other, I'll just open the door so you can talk face to face," he said. Hearing this, Lu Chen panicked. As the door creaked open, fear gripped him. He quickly called out to Du Shursen, pleading for him not to open it. In his rush to stop him, he tried to move but collapsed to the floor, the side effects of an earlier blood test weakening him. As he struggled, Lu Chen gasped, "Wait, I have something to tell you about her." His words made Du Shursen pause, looking down at him with curiosity. Meanwhile, he continued pounding on the door, shouting Lu Chen's name. "I know you're in there," she yelled. Annoyed, Du Shursen told her to stop making so much noise. "It's too early. People are still asleep," he grumbled as he unlocked the door. The moment it opened, he shoved past him. "Move," she snapped, leaving Du Shursen stunned. She frantically searched the room, calling Lu Chen's name. Du Shursen, puzzled by her urgency, asked, "Do you need something?" He's eyes scanned every corner before snapping her gaze toward him. "I heard his voice just now. Where is he?" Feigning ignorance, Du Shursen replied, "I have no idea where he is. You must have the wrong place." But he wasn't convinced. "I know he's here," she insisted. Du Shursen, growing frustrated, warned her. "You're trespassing," he stated firmly. Yet he paid no attention to his words and instead threw open another door. "Are you hiding from me, Lu Chen?" she called out, making Du Shursen uneasy. Hearing her relentless pursuit, Lu Chen, concealed in a closet, felt his anxiety spike. He realized Du Shursen hadn't deceived her well enough, and now she was getting too close. Then, He's gaze landed on the slightly open closet. "I know you're in there," she declared. Inside, Lu Chen held his breath, praying she wouldn't find him. As her hand reached for the closet door, she called out again. "Why are you avoiding me? Do you know how worried I've been?" The door slowly creaked open, allowing light to spill onto Lu Chen's face. He froze, realizing he had no escape. Just as he was about to fully open the door, Du Shursen suddenly shouted, "Lu Chen is already dead." The words stopped He in her tracks. Her hands trembled. "That's impossible," she whispered. Du Shursen, relieved that she hadn't fully opened the closet, quickly continued. "If you don't believe me, we can go to the 4th hospital and check the death report." Tears welled in He's eyes as she turned away. "No, you're lying," she cried, shaking her head in disbelief. Without another word, she pushed past Du Shursen and ran out of the room, sobbing uncontrollably. As she disappeared, Du Shursen checked to make sure she had truly left. Then he called Director Du, requesting assistance. With the situation settled, Du Shursen walked over to the closet and opened the door. "She's gone," he informed Lu Chen. "Are you sure this was the right thing to do?" Lu Chen stepped out, sighing. "Back at the hospital, I was naive. I thought an X-ray treatment would make me normal again. But after the memory lock broke, I can't even confirm if I'm truly alive." He continued, his voice heavy with emotion. "Rather than giving her false hope only to shatter it, it's better to let her despair now. That way, the pain will be less in the long run." Du Shursen frowned. "You're only confusing me more. What exactly happened last night?" Lu Chen hesitated before finally confessing. "I was buried alive." Shocked, Du Shursen struggled to comprehend what he just heard. Lu Chen then recounted what had transpired the day before. He had arranged to meet He, believing it was just a casual meetup between online friends. However, he was taken aback when he discovered she was actually the vice president of GGS Asia. She had turned his gaming equipment into 200,000 yuan, offered him a position in her new studio, and even confessed her feelings for him. But he rejected everything. "I have a 3-second delay in my responses," Lu Chen explained. "I'd only be a burden to her. I didn't want her to waste her time on me." One day, he insisted on giving him a ride home. But on their way, they were ambushed. It was a scheme by her rival in the company, a desperate attempt to eliminate her competition. As the attackers closed in, Lu Chen fought to protect He. They had greater numbers and were armed, he recalled. In a last-ditch effort, he ignited the car's fuel tank. The explosion bought them mere seconds. The blast wave sent He flying onto a passing tractor, but Lu Chen remained behind. The assassins, enraged by their failed plan, took out their fury on him. "They beat me until I was barely alive. Maybe they thought I was dead," he said. After they were done, they dragged my body to the chaotic burial mound and buried me alive. Du Sam was horrified. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. But I was lucky, Chen continued. There was no escape from death until the heavy rain came. The soil loosened, and I managed to claw my way out of the grave like a zombie. He recalled how he had wandered aimlessly, his body slowly healing. By the time he regained consciousness, he found himself standing at his doorstep, with no wounds. Only a dull pain at the back of his head. Du San, still reeling from the revelation, marveled at the impossible recovery. You must have been infected with a virus while buried. It's constantly repairing your body. This is unbelievable. Chen looked at him solemnly. So tell me, do you think I'm still alive? Du San let out a breath. All the answers lie in the chaotic burial mound. We have to go there. Chen nodded. I'm coming with you. But Du San shook his head. No, you need rest first. He helped Chen to the table, handing him some bread. Eat something. I'll be out for a while. Are you heading to the burial site now? Chen asked. No, Du San replied. I need to forge your death certificate first. Director Du nearly chewed me out over this. Also, when are you going to pick up your gaming helmet? Chen, taking a bite of the bread, muttered, I'll get it later. A short while later, Du San arrived at the 4th Hospital's expert conference room, carrying a box. As he stepped inside, he was taken aback by the sight of numerous elderly doctors gathered in the room. Confusion filled his mind. What was going on?
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to contribute further, you can now buy me a coffee. Every little bit helps in creating more quality content for you. Just click the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video.